Hi, everyone. This is Lara again. I'm here with Trent from the OEC. Hi, Trent.
Hello.
So let's dive into it. Tell me who you are, what you do, and why you do it.
So this may sound cheesy, but to the question of who is Trent Dougherty, I'm essentially three things. I'm a husband, I'm a father, and I'm a career-long public interest lawyer. And those three things, although it sounds cheesy, these are the three things that symbolize and epitomize who I am. I'll take those in reverse order. So I'm a environmental public interest attorney, which means for the past 15 years as head legal counsel at the Ohio Environmental Council, I've taken legal cases to defend communities over corporations, people over profit, and I do that because of number two, because I'm a father. I have a 13-year-old girl. She is going to go on and do bigger and better things than I could ever imagine. And I have a responsibility to her, and I have responsibility to every other 13-year-old girl, 13-year-old boy, everybody else that's like her, to make sure that there's a world that they can thrive, that they can succeed. And I learned that from my father, who in a way that fathers usually do, not by words but by deeds, that as long as you do the right thing, you do it with compassion, you do it with love, people that you'll never meet, people that never know your name, never know you exist, are going to reap the benefits of what you do. So it's not just your son and daughter, but others as well. And last of all, I'm a husband, so it's a partnership with my wife, and it's important because having a partner that tells me every single day that I shouldn't be afraid or embarrassed to live into those values, even if it means that I'm a nonprofit lawyer and I don't get paid what my law school classmates get paid now. It's all good, and having that partnership is part of what I am and who I am. So again, it's kind of cheesy, but those are the three things that make me me.
How does this work? You're saying science plus art plus your political, your legal perspective from a political sense and from an environmental sense, all of it coming together, helping to shape these messages and kind of digest these complicated problems and create solutions for the public. So how does that affect the environmental space itself?
Yes. So the law and the courts are the backbone of environmental protection. And it's also the backstop when it comes to efforts by bad actors to pollute at will. So it would be great if we could all just all live with our sort of moral sense that we want to protect the environment for the environment's sake, and it works out. History has shown it just doesn't work that way. You need to have laws there and then make sure that people follow those laws. But as one of the I think most important things, so there's those actual, that side of the law about sort of making sure that corporations are following that law and that bad actors are being held accountable. There's that side, and I love that side. That's every once in a while when I'm able to get in court, those are some enjoyable times for the true lawyer brain in me. But then there's also understanding these laws and understanding where communities can fit into the process. Because one of the great things about environmental law, or at least the spirit of it, is when those early environmental laws were being put in place in the late 60s and early 70s, by design, communities were meant to be a part of the process. It's been a long and difficult, travel between then and now in terms of how communities get involved and how much they are involved. But it's always been a core tenet that communities can play many different roles. So either just being able to make their voice heard on if there's a permit for a factory farm coming into a small community, just north central Ohio, being able to express your concern if you live downstream or live downwind from that facility, to actually being able to appeal a permit for that and say, this impacts me. It impacts me in a way that the law needs to provide a fix for it. And there are many avenues where people can do that either on their own or with pro bono attorneys. And the key is to make sure that they know those laws and understand how to utilize those laws. And there are even more simple ways where people can and need to understand where they can find information, because the law is always provides that information is public, but they hide it in a way where it makes it a little bit difficult for folks to get that information. So understanding how to maneuver the bureaucracy and everything, that all the roadblocks that are, I consider them fairly fragile roadblocks, but still roadblocks that are put in place, being able to assist folks, individuals, communities to get that information is I think one of the key parts of being on the public interest side of the environmental space. So I use that term, and I use that term intentionally, that I'm not just an environmental lawyer, I'm a public interest environmentalist. So the key is that the public has to be in the forefront of the efforts, and that's even in the legal space as well. And it is a situation, as I keep saying, there's science at one end, there's the art at the other, where people actually get the information and can understand that information, that you're getting them from the science side, and then being able to provide whatever support that's needed for communities to get and utilize what the law provides for them.
How does graphic communication and social media and the digital presence of the OEC impact these environmental movements?
Well, environmental movements live and survive on three things. That's education, organization, and agitation. Those three things are what graphic communication and social media is all about. It's about, like I've hit on over the past few minutes, which is the education part, which is taking such large, dense topics, talking about, I get caught up in the parts per million of this chemical. It has to be lower than this, or we need to make sure we're down 2% or 2 degrees Celsius. People don't know or ultimately care about that stuff. It's about how does that impact them, and educating folks in a world where we are so inundated with information, much of it false information, much of it misleading information, how to educate in a way that does not talk down to people, that is in a way that uplifts people. There's a lot that I can talk about and probably have in the past few minutes that seem dire, but there's so much opportunity in it, and educating people in terms of that opportunity, and providing and showing those opportunities that are there. And one big, I guess, part of that education piece is not just conveying that, but conveying it in a way where you then can go to the next thing, which is organize, which is environmental movements, especially when you have a community base, it seems daunting because you feel so small, but ultimately it's the numbers, even in a small community, outweigh or outnumber those that are making the decisions, and it's about organizing those communities together. And again, it is proper use or reasonable use of social media and communications to bring people together, and especially to bring people together on that small scale, on that community scale about what's happening in their backyard, but also being able to show them how what they do and decisions they make in that small community impacts the greater, broader, globalized issues. Decisions you make with your wallet in a household has ripple effects, environmental impacts upstream from there, and can have environmental benefits if those decisions are made in a different way to people, again, people you may never run into ever in your life, or maybe even never be miles or continents away from where they live, but can benefit them or impact them with decisions you make at that small level. So being able to, I call that organizing at that level, and having a place where people can come together on those issues. Again, be it global, be it backdoor or backyard. That organization, we do that through our communications, through our members. We do it through social media, through regular media, and that's important. That's really what, even before we were, even in the very nascent days of the environmental movement in the late 60s and 70s, it was about getting people together because numbers were really what helped push things. It wasn't just one person here and there, one organization. It was a number of people together. And then lastly, it's the agitation, which is again a key thing that communications plays. Is sometimes you have to make sure that those in power understand that there is that organization there, that there is that group of folks, and that they have a voice, and that their voice is going to be heard, and that they're going to hold decision makers accountable for the decisions they make and for the decisions they choose not to make. And that is a key part, and that's a key part of not just OEC with the environmental organization hat on, but when I take that hat on, I put a political hat with our political organization, Conservation Ohio. You have to use that communication to say, hey, so and so lawmaker promised X, delivered nothing. We need a change. So everything from educating folks about the impacts to themselves and to others, to bringing people together, to then holding those folks, those in power accountable, is the key to any environmental movement, period. Probably any movement, at all. But especially with the environment, and especially how we are sort of forced to put all of those together, and in an atmosphere where there's a lot of information out there. How do you cut through, and how are you able to do that? By using the science to make you credible, but doing it in a way where people can understand and use that science to help themselves and help their communities. I think they got to what you said. That was at least what was in my mind and heart when you asked that.
How do you channel this kind of thinking into the next generation?
It's there's a part of me that's like, from what I see, there's not a lot that you have to do, because there's so much that's there and that's happening now, and especially in those that have focused on art and communication, and this generation, I think, gets it more than my I'm a late Gen Xer, so my childhood was in the 80s, where things were about excess, and then we got to be apathetic. I think that's changed now, so I think it's there. But yeah, how do you channel it and harness it and use it, especially in times when instant gratification is what you get in everything? Understanding that it takes a long time to get progress. I mean, that's not a new concept. That's not a hot take there. And with the environment in particular, compared to some other movements, it's fairly new. I mean, we've only had really 50 years of a true movement go on, and you compare that to other movements that are hundreds of years, and we're still working and fighting and not getting to where we think we need to be. We know we need to be. So just being able to and I try to teach and educate my daughter, especially, who's a huge political nerd and wants to be part of every movement, and just saying, hey, there's nothing wrong with failing, as long as you try and you fail. Because I think if you keep trying, you're going to just fail up, and things are going to be moving forward. Don't get I've seen a lot of losses in the environmental sphere, but I've seen a lot of wins. And so you have to be able to keep that going, to be able to sort of take those hits, and understand that every single time you fall back, you're actually moving forward. I know that gets harder with, like I said, with a generation that instant gratification is there, and you double that with, or you combine that with the effects of the pandemic on folks that I fear. I even see it in myself. A little bit of you get a little defeatist sometimes when you're at, as we are now, about 11 and a half months of talking to Zoom screens and not to humans, that you feel like it's not going to get better. And that's really detrimental to folks that are, I use the 13-year-olds, but I'm sure also 18, 20, 25-year-olds are feeling the same thing. And so just being able to understand that you can, and maybe this is a shining light, you can be a part of that change. And you can be, as you said, you're not just tomorrow's leaders, you're today's leaders, because we need everybody. We need students of today. We need Gen Xers like me. We need, my parents' generation that, like I said, my dad, who by deeds and not words helped push me along. We need all of us together to figure out how we're moving forward, and being able to, as I started with how I started in my job, which was that little entrepreneurial spirit, saying, okay, I'm going to see something that needs a push, and I'm going to try to get behind it and push it and see what happens. Maybe I'm able to make a career out of it. Maybe it's just a little thing I do as a volunteer. Maybe it doesn't work out, but at least I go and try and do it and go from there. And at the very least, if you try, you're going to be some inspiration to somebody behind you. And I know from my experience, it's the people that are behind me, either in age or experience, they're going to blow past anything I've ever done. And that's 100% okay with me. That's why I do this, is so that others can take what I throw up and they move forward with it. And I think that's I don't think you need to channel too much. I think it's there, but it's just making sure that it continues. And I try to be as optimistic as possible. So I'm optimistic that that this next generation of leaders will take this and actually get us to those goals we've always wanted.